Joining us right now, the lovely, the beautiful Carol Roth, a recovering investment banker, entrepreneur. You see her on television. She's a New York Times best-selling author. Her latest book, The War on Small Business, you should go and get it. And she joins us now. I have to say, Carol, first off, before we even jump into this, I saw one of your tweets this morning. This is why we're friends. I can't read it on air, but you were responding to someone who was essentially criticizing your response to Biden on energy and taxing oil and gas, and well, it was a very nice response. You were saying, they ruined the market, Einstein, but not in that way. It's so good to see you. Welcome.
Yes, nice to see you. And I have to compliment your big hair today. Really loving
It
that.
was the big 80s barrel today. It was the big
I
80s
like it.
barrel iron. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. So
problem.
I wanted to get your reaction to this. Jerome Powell, we knew this was coming. This came out yesterday. I think this is partly why Biden chose to do his primetime address last night. Didn't say anything at all in his speech about inflation. Nothing about this. This is what people are concerned about, and this is horrible news, especially going into the holidays, going into the next year. Forecasts for business. What are your thoughts about this?
Oh, good old Jerome being Jerome. He did a little fakey to the market. The market thought that he was going to pivot. They were going to change their tenor and say, well, yeah, we're going to wait for this to work its way through the economy, and maybe we'll take a pause, or maybe we'll keep the terminal rate as is and do smaller chunks. And he's like, nope, we're just going to barrel on through. We're just going to play this game of chicken and hope we don't get caught. And it's a really scary proposition, because what it means is that he is willing to sacrifice not only our domestic economy, which means the jobs of average Americans and small businesses, to fight the inflation that, by the way, he had a big hand in creating. So, the arsonist is going to help you rebuild your house. But he's not only willing to do that on a domestic front, but also on an international front. This has severe implications. As the interest rates go up, the dollar strengthens, which exports inflation to all of these other countries around the world. It could create currency crises. It could create illiquidity in our treasury markets, which we're already starting to see. And so, there are all of these implications that it's hard to say they're not being thought through. It makes me feel, and I said I was kind of going to wait to see what he said on this one. It makes me feel like we're weaponizing the dollar, that they're trying to get to Russia and to China and sacrificing Europe in the process, that they're trying to blow up the global economy so we can get a financial reset, and maybe they can usher in their central bank digital currencies. Like, there's something else going on here, that the willingness to continue to push with people who, even though they've done stupid things, are not fundamentally stupid. It doesn't sit well with me, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're talking with our friend Carol Roth. Her book is The War on Small Business. You were mentioning too. I was looking at. I saw a couple of pieces just exporting this to other countries. In Britain, they are looking at seeing kind of what we're seeing here with housing and mortgage rates. They're looking at a crisis. I had a headline just in my last headline segment how the cost of living, mortgage rates, rent, everything else so expensive. People are now redefining how to live. The elderly are getting roommates. I mean, it's basically we're having Golden Girls episodes everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just that demo. It's, young adults are having a majorly difficult time trying to get out of the nest and buy their first house, because that's how people would, generate wealth. They would go and they'd buy property, they'd buy their house, they'd work hard, they'd go from there. This kicks that further away.
Yes, this is the you will own nothing. Instead of owning the American dream, you now get to rent the American dream. And just like we've imported from technology, your life becomes a subscription service. Mm-hmm. And this is not how we recreate wealth. And there's, it's coming at it from both the fiscal and the monetary policy side. On the fiscal policy side, we have underbuilt homes. We have almost 90 some odd thousand, I think it's $94,000 in regulations that go into the cost of a new home. So if we removed barriers and made it easier for more supply to get into the market, it would bring down the cost of homes. And even though those mortgage prices would be up, there would still be some level of affordability, but we've got that tight supply as well as this increasing mortgage rates, and it's adding hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially if the rates were to stay at that level and you didn't refinance over a 30-year mortgage to the cost of a $400,000 house in America. So this really is an issue that obviously flows back through the rental market, and there is going to be a floor on prices because we just don't have enough homes. We have a lot of buyers that are institutional that, by the way, did not exist before the Great Recession financial crisis. This is an entirely new market that came around in the last 12 years where you have big institutions going up and competing with you for the American dream. So they're just going to wait for the housing prices to fall to a certain level that they're a good enough bargain, and they will be swooping in there with their cash, not having to look at the homes, not having to make any, special requests, and making it quote unquote easy to sell to them. And this is the way that they're taking our individual wealth from us.
Gosh, it's terrifying. Carol Roth is joining us right now. We're talking with her. She joins us via Skype. Last question for you, Carol, because we have elections Tuesday, and I realize this is not going to be anything. Even best case scenario, say we walk away, Senate's, we got 52, 53, and we end up. I mean, I'm not really worried about the House, the power of the purse, but by the time that those new elected officials are seated and everything kicks off, it's going to be after the holidays. We're looking at mid-January, late January. There's a lot of damage that can be done monetarily from now until then. What is the first thing that you would tell all of these incoming elected officials, predominantly Republicans? What do they got to do to get a handle on this, to give voters some relief?
So I think if it were a different scenario and Biden was amenable to shifting, it would certainly be energy policy. It would be creating some certainty so that these energy companies could create investments. I don't think that's likely to happen. So you have to switch to the budget. We have to stop this overspending, because not only are we at an untenable amount of debt, this 31 trillion, but the rates of the debt are going through the roof with these increases by the Fed and the Fed funds rate. It all flows through. The last time I checked, our debt was priced at somewhere around like 1.4, 1.5, maybe 1.6%, and it had a 5 to 6 year term. So that means 20-ish% is turning over every year, plus whatever it is that we're adding on top of that. And now that's all coming at these higher rates. If you have another percentage increase in the overall cost of $31 trillion in debt, that's another $300 billion. And then for every percent, three times that, that's almost another trillion. We're going to crowd out any other new spending by paying for stuff that we quote unquote already bought. It is an epic issue. They have to basically tamp down on it. And by the way, they only have to go back to the levels of spending of 2018 or 2019.
Which were still pretty bad, but they only got to go that far back.
But at that point, we would be running, if it was 2018, we'd be running a surplus at this point. So,
wow.
It's just dialing it back a little bit to give us some breathing room, because that is, in my opinion, the foundation of all of this. Massive debt loads and power are at odds, and that's why I'm worried about this global financial reset.
Oh boy, and it is something definitely to be very incredibly concerned about. Man, I'm going to be, even though I know it's all, it looks good, at the same time, anything can happen between now and Tuesday. So Carol Roth, we appreciate you making some sense out of this. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Her book, make sure you go out and get it, folks. It is The War on Small Business. You can buy it at HarperCollins. Buy it where books are sold. And follow her on Twitter, Carol J.S. Roth, because it's worth it. It's a good follow. Carol, so good to see you. Thank you so much.
You as well, my friend. See you soon.
Take care. You too.